and Brother Ausar, Amen. With special guests every week. You can follow Africans United, Know Thyself, Black Power Radio on Facebook.com/Oak 93.5. Or you can engage in conversation by calling 919-899-9305. Once again, each and every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here on Oak 93.5.
Go peace to the elders, the ancestral giants. Peace to gods and goddesses of past, present, and future. Peace to kings, queens, and royal families all over. And peace to you, brothers and sisters. You're tuned into Oak 93.5 FM, Africans United, Know Thyself, Black Power Radio. I'm Escents Divine, here with our brother, the Honorable Brother Ausar, man.
Anakasar, a BB for Hodier, African liberation, black liberation, African power, black power, for every black man, woman, and child on the planet. We are the original people. I am the original man. I am a son of Africa. Peace to the listening audience out there.
And the Queen, Dr. Kimberly Muktarian.
Well, good morning, listening audience, and those that are viewing from wherever you are. We say to you, pay attention, because it is time for us to take off and know that you will be educated and not indoctrinated.
True. Right on. The spirit is high already. Today's topic, African Revolutionary Warriors, Kings and Queens, let's stand up. So I decided this morning, just to stay on topic, I feel that it's on topic. I'm going to do a quick poem to open us up, and then we'll get right into it. I call it Birth of a Nation. Inspired by Nat Turner, concerners will fear it. Emancipation proclaimed for those to hear it. The spirit of the righteous tightens for war. They fluidly flow and unite for the chore. Endure the pain, but stay sane, it's more to come. Stay intellectually fit to each battle is won. Drums and rhythm, that's essential to our culture. Cast material devils away and leave them the vultures. Hoax or myths like spliffs, we leave them in smoke. His story is lies when our story gets told. The bold and the strong has longed for this day. No reenactment necessary. This is a real-time play. The stray who vanished, banished them from the garden. While we enjoy fruits of Eden, no conscious mind left starving. Pardon the interruption. This is destruction of the wicked. Now greet your higher self and the jubilant thrill it inflicted. Stick it to the haters, fakers, liars, and cheaters. You'll be salvaged in heaven when they're touched by the reaper. It's cheaper to keep her because she's mother of civilization. Salvation and liberation is gained through birth of a nation.
Wow.
Awesome, brother. Awesome.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Yes, indeed.
So I want to get right on into it, because I mean, this is one of these days and it's powerful. We're gonna hold us a little, and we're gonna have a great discussion today. I'm ready and all for it. Let's start on the African continent, because it produced some of the most remarkable and influential leaders in global history, from legendary warriors and empire builders to revolutionary thinkers and modern day presidents. These individuals have left lasting legacies, whether they ruled mighty kingdoms or led resistant movements. Their leadership has inspired pride, identity, and resilience. Here are some of the most powerful African leaders in history. Shaka Zulu, the military genius who revolutionized warfare in Southern Africa. Mansa Musa, the richest man in human history, who ruled the Mali Empire. Queen Nzinga, the fearless leader who resisted Portuguese colonialism for decades. Amilcar Cabral, he fought the Portuguese colonial rule also. And Samora Machel led Mozambique after independence and championed socialism and Pan-Africanism. These leaders demonstrated true power. Now, can you explain to us the need for the African Revolution and why the emphasis on African revolutionary warriors?
Yes, indeed, brother. Well, first I want to say that when we talk about African revolutionary warriors, we're not just talking about Africans on the continent. We're talking about the Africans in the diaspora as well. The first name, basically, that you called out when you recited your poem was Nat Turner, who was a revolutionist.
Yes.
Who basically, he interpreted the Bible, right, in a way where it was supposed to benefit him and his people. And he saw the contradictions in it. And so that's why he took the action that he took based off of the knowledge that he had gained, right? Because he knew that something was inherently wrong with the system that basically practiced racism for over 300 and something years, right? So the revolutionary spirit is first and foremost what has to be on our mind. And when we're talking about revolution, we have to understand that what are we revolting against? We're revolting against injustice, unfairness, right? Oppression, exploitation, right? The only way a revolution can be successful if the people have a consciousness that understands what the fight is all about. And I think a lot of times, of course, the enemy is going to do everything in their power to keep us off balance. And the first thing that they did was basically erase our culture and our history. That's why one of the things that we always talk about is the knowledge of self, right? And it has to be a revolution in the mind first and foremost before there can be any type of revolution, right? So we're dealing with consciousness, right? And so when we're dealing with consciousness, one of the most important things for us to understand is our identity, right? Understanding that we are African, right? And it's been a lot of confusion there because a lot of us call ourselves different things, right? Because of our history and culture being stripped from us. That's why it's so important for us to study, research, learn as much as we can about our not only recent history, but ancient history, right? And understand that we have to have a revolutionary mind because what we're basically challenging is a corrupt system, right? That has deliberately and intentionally targeted African people for thousands of years to oppress and exploit for a number of reasons. One, our resources, right? Our minerals in Africa. Two, our labor, right? They use our labor to build up this country's wealth. So it's a lot of reasons why it's so important for us to have a revolutionary spirit, right? Because a lot of times when people hear the word revolution, they automatically think about bloodshed, right? And that is part of a revolution. But that only comes after the people understand what they're fighting for and are willing to fight for. Not willing to die for, but willing to kill for. And that's the point that we have to get to. Because when we understand, and Dr. Kim, she often states about how we are in a war. Right? That a war is being waged against us.
Right.
So what we have to do is fight back. We have to do that in a conscious manner by understanding how we got to where we are today and what we have to do moving forward.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Well, Brother Kevin, Brother Ausar, hit it on the head, is that what revolution is birthed out of a need for real peace. A lot of times we pass these cliches around about what peace is, but peace is not passivity. Revolution says that either you get ready or you stay ready.
Yeah.
And when we talk about these that we have spoke about, usually it's a rise to the occasion. Nat Turner and them understood that this was an injustice. And that injustice is shown throughout the diaspora, like Brother Ausar said, through every last one of these revolutionaries. They had to stand up and fight back. Now, they didn't just get ready. They were already ready. Why? Because they understood that there was a constant enemy who hated their existence. And, of course, even without the resources, they hate you. So it doesn't even matter if you have something or not.
Yeah.
They come up on your land like, we don't even like you whether you got some on the land or not. We'll find that out later. But at the end of the day, that is a very constant state of mind that you have to be in because your enemy is always
in that state of mind.
Always in the same constant mode. So, again, peace out to the revolutionaries. Why? Because what we find is that most Westerns do not like when we stay ready. their job is to usually use Christianity and other religions and holidays to sort of make us docile. It puts us to sleep while they continue to rob, steal. Because see, that's a full-time job. Colonialism is a full-time job. They just don't want the resources. They want the body, like you said, the labor. They want and they want to control every aspect of the human genome. They want to be able to experiment on you if they need to. They need to own your children if they go into the lead. They need to own your body if you go into the courthouse. Colonialism is just not about taking land. It's about owning every aspect of who you are from the ground up.
Yeah, and I like that because, we really have to talk about the decolonization of the mind, right? Because that's the one place that they want to affect us more than anything by erasing our history so that they can have control over us. And, that's why, I always go back to our teachings, our African teachings, Kemetic teachings. The first value, the first principle, control your thoughts. As African people, we have to be in control of our thoughts. Once we're in control of our thoughts, we can be in control of our actions, right? So we've been impacted in such a negative way because of oppression and exploitation. And it takes a while, to overcome over 300 and something years of being enslaved here, over 500 years of being oppressed, right? But when we make a conscious effort, and it's going to take a global movement of African people, right? Where we have to have group consciousness as a people, thinking on the same accord, the same frequency, right? And, I was studying the great brother Kwame Ture, and he made an example how, it's often said that we as African people, as black people, how we can never come together because we have, different ideologies, philosophies, and things of that nature. He said, but the one thing that we can organize around, he said, is truth.
That's right.
Yes.
And I think that, that's dealing with Maya, truth, justice, and righteousness. So when we can work together and build together off of our values and principles of our ancestors, dealing with Maya, organizing around truth, and then we'll be able to overcome the oppression, the exploitation, and make the right plans for the future, right? And one other good thing, and Kwame Ture, he said a bunch of great things that I really like was when he was saying, we got to understand that we're not just fighting for us today to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor. We're fighting for our future generations.
Next generation.
And
That's
how
right.
we are basically receiving the fruits of the labor off of our ancestors that had to endure, slavery for over 300 something years, And I'm beginning to understand as I continue to study and grow a little more. One of the things that, my great Jagna, Baba Akmos, teaches me, that it takes time, right? And so when I'm looking at time now, I realize, wow, when I was born in 1965, slavery had only been over 400 years.
That's true.
So when I look back 50 years, which is 1975, I was 10 years. I can look back on that like it was yesterday.
That's right.
And I multiply that by 2, that's 100 years. That's just how close we are to slavery. So we have to have a conscious effort. And we, more than anything, like Sun Tzu said, know thyself, know thy enemy, and know the terrain. We have to understand the environment that we're in, not just here in the United States, but globally.
That's right.
How the target has always been, for thousands of years, African people, Africa, right? They're still in Africa, right? Trying to rob Africa. Can you imagine a bunch of Africans in Europe trying to steal their resources, or a bunch of Africans in China trying to steal their resources?
Right.
But yet it has become a normal thing for everybody to invade Africa and steal from Africa and take from Africa.
Yeah.
And that's why
Absolutely.
we have to have an African revolutionary consciousness. We have to be African revolutionary warriors, right? We have to be mental warriors, spiritual warriors, right? Philosophical warriors,
That's true.
psychological warriors.
Yeah.
In every, even dealing with business, right? We have to use our gifts and our talents to benefit black people, to benefit African people. We have to have an African united front, right? Where we all can come together and understand the importance of working together for the benefit of all African people, wherever they are on the planet Earth.
That's good. That's so good. You know, Brother Ausar, when we take a look at the damages that have been done psychologically, we can just look at 2 days ago where black folks, yeah, I'm talk about us today, you know. It's Sunday and y'all love truth and y'all at church tapping your feet and singing in harmony. But we really don't have the harmony that we say we do. We singing, and that only lasts for 3 minutes. But when we come out into our communities, it's reflective that we don't have the harmony that we say we do. And harmony is not just about a song. It's a way of life. It's how we connect. That's how we know we don't have it, because that's how we see it in our businesses. When I look at you and you look at me, we should be able to exchange. Business is an exchange of gift ideas and services. But do we actually believe in each other? Do we actually possess the harmony or exemplify and practice the harmony that we so-called have when we go into the quote-unquote house of God? When we come back out, our community should flourish. Now, I'm gonna tell you where I grew up at. I grew up where they told you that God is love, because that's what it was in the Bible. So if I go every Sunday to the Church of God and I go get so-called God, then I should also be getting
Some love.
some love. Okay. So if I got love and I come back out into the community, why does my community look like the worst community, but we got the most churches? Some the algebraic equation is not rolling. I'm talking to y'all today, because that tells us if we got what we say we got. Because religion should be able to manifest what you're talking about, what you indoctrinating people about. Or is it a safe haven from white supremacy? Are you scared and hiding inside of your religious behaviors so that you can show this nation what a good Negro you are? That does not equate to us having businesses or doing business amongst ourselves. Just because you keeping massa happy doesn't have. And see, that's the anti of the revolutionary spirit.
Right.
Because as long as you are appeasing massa, you can't raise up against massa. And I hate to call him massa, but I have to call him something that most folks have to reach
Relate
that.
to.
Right.
Yeah.
You know. That's how you know we haven't gotten where we say we've gotten, because it will produce a Mansa Musa. Right. It would produce matter of fact, the rappers wouldn't be calling themselves Al Capone and Escobar. Right. Hey y'all, hey, we would be calling ourselves the real warriors. Right. Okay, we would be saying we Shaka Zulu, and we would have pride in our warriors and not somebody else's warriors who locked up, who got captured.
Right.
So they've taught us to like everybody but ourselves. We have quite a few examples of warriors, and I can't find not one rapper who would like to take on, or did they even do their research to see that we do have credible. They didn't just run an empire; they ran a nation. Come on. Empires fall, nations stand. Okay.
Right. I think that the revolutionary warrior is so important, right? And to be a warrior, you have to be able to understand and overcome fear.
That's right.
You have to be courageous, right? And that's where they get us, is the fear factor within our mind, right? Wherein we feel like the European, the white man is invincible, but they're not invincible, right? The only way that they have gotten to where they have gotten to is through trickery, technology, right? Murder.
Right. That's right.
Thievery, lying, right? Any kind of crime that you can think of, that's how they gain their power, right?
Come on.
We have to be aware of this. So we have to be intelligent and understand that we can't be like, we cannot take the philosophy, well, if you can't beat them, join them. No.
Right.
We have to have the philosophy that we are going to defeat them.
Win.
Right? And we have to work, and we have to continue to work, and we have to continue to struggle, right? Because anytime that you can have a world, right, that basically practices global racism, against African people and black people is no excuse for it.
That's
There's
right.
no justification about it, right?
That's right.
That's why we have to stand firm, right? I often hear black people, African people say that they're unapologetic. It's nothing to be apologetic about.
Right.
We shouldn't even have to say that. What we should do is be uncompromising.
That's right.
We cannot compromise our principles, and we cannot go along just to get along. We have to understand who this enemy is and what this enemy has done. The millions and millions and millions of African people, black people that have been murdered by this enemy. The millions and millions and millions of black people that are still being impacted in a negative way
That's right.
by colonialism, imperialism, white supremacy. Right? We have to be able to look the white man in the eye, face to face, toe to toe, and whoop them. Right? And it starts in the mind. You have to
Yes.
be able to defeat them in the mind.
Right.
Right? I was listening to like I was saying, the great brother Kwame Turvey, and he was talking about power. How power doesn't start at the implementation, like people say the ability to do, but it starts with conception within your mind.
Come on.
Right? And that's why the knowledge of self is so important. Right? And that's why our values and principles dealing with controlling your thoughts. Those thoughts have to be righteous thoughts, right? Thoughts of liberation, thoughts of unity, and like Baba Akmos taught us earlier this month, right? Thoughts of love. That's when you really raise your consciousness, and that's when you really become an African revolutionary warrior. When you have love for your people, infinite love, with no boundaries, right? That love that takes you from the 4th chakra all the way to the 7th chakra, where those chakras open up and you understand that it's not just your family, but it's all African people, black people on this planet.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and I hear you quite well, brother, when you say it starts in the mind. And the first thing you have to do is arrest the fear. Because who we are dealing with is a people who are in fear. So we really shouldn't be calling them white supremacists.
right.
We should be saying that they are inferior. And they're not inferior to us. Fear is a made-up psychological behavior. So they really don't have anything to fear when they see us. But that is something they've created in their minds that they should fear us. But mind you, again, this is about science, not emotion. Our melanin was not created by us. It was created by the divine.
Created, that's right.
So how can you get mad with a people unless when you beat us, when you lynch us, when you hang us, when you kill us, incarcerate us, you're really not beating us. You're beating at God because he was the maker and the creator. Are you mad with him because he made us this way? And so now you go through all of these formalities on how you can tan yourself and blow up your lips and blow up your body like a, pump doll. So again, it goes deeper than just beating us. You will be afflicting us for the rest of your life. You may need to go to the higher power and talk to him about what was he thinking when he made you, not what was he thinking when he made us. And that is the dilemma of an inferiority complex is I can't change you. So I have to beat you to be like me. And technically, we should not have to be like any other but ourselves. We should just be. Because we are human beings. And that is the scientific answer. Either we are or we ain't. And how we got here, we didn't put in a plan for ourselves. So for us to have to go to war with humanity over something that we didn't even create. That's a psychological issue. So for us to bear arms, to constantly bear arms, is to constantly live in fear. Yeah, I'm 51 years old. I don't fear a human. I don't fear y'all. I don't walk around with a gun. I don't go to the grocery store with a gun. I don't take my if I felt that in fear of you, I would not even let my children go to school knowing that little Tyler might be coming to school today. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is a psychological impulse. And we go back to the strategy of the Mayak when it says, what, Brother Ausar?
Truth, justice, and righteousness.
Right,
No,
and
control your thoughts.
Control
Yes.
your
Yes.
thoughts.
Yes.
And the issue is you're dealing with a people who do not know how to control their thoughts. It becomes even the more dangerous when you legalize your psychosis.
Right.
Yeah.
When you legalize
Right.
your mental illness.
Right.
And then you colonize or give yourself a right to own a human.
Right.
Come on, it gets deeper when we start talking about the power of an uncontrollable mind.
Right.
But let me ask something
Yes.
real quick because it was stated identify the enemy. Now, most of us can, but a lot of us we come from say we come from a prominent family. Let's say Mr. and Miss Freeman.
Right.
They come from a prominent family that's been thriving in this society for a couple of ages. So they don't see any, they don't see the problem.
Right.
You understand? Y'all see what I'm trying to get to.
Of
so
course.
so you think it's necessary because y'all also say a lot of this is psychological, so we got to think about the mental aspect of the revolution also.
Yes.
Last week or a week or so ago when we were speaking on this, we was talking about the revolution starts with self. The revolution starts in the mind.
Sure.
We got to get ourselves right first. So what I'm asking is do we think we got to have a fight with self first? Or and when I say self, I'm talking about our people as a whole to try to get everybody on the same accord, and then we step out and go against and know our enemy.
Well, we always fight, right? But at the same time, we're organizing. And I think that that's one of the most important things is for us to organize. Organize. As Kwame Ture said, and as the Honorable Marcus Garvey said, right? Organization is very important. And the first thing we have to organize is our thoughts, right? And that's why group consciousness is so important in identity. Understanding that we are African, right? And the only way, because what we're doing, we've been put in a state of ignorance because our culture and history has been erased from us. The only way to dispel ignorance is through knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? And that's in
right.
our teachings. Knowledge dispels ignorance. And I was listening to a brother the other day, and he really made a great point when he was talking about ignorance, because people take that the wrong way a lot of times. They think you're saying that, if you're ignorant, you're stupid, but that's not what you're saying.
Right.
Basically, he broke it down with saying within the word ignorant or ignorance is ignore. It's
Right.
to ignore
Oh,
the
that's
facts.
good. That's good.
Right? So even when the facts are being presented a lot of times, we're rejected because we don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Because we've been taught and indoctrinated in a certain
Hang
way.
up.
And that's why it's so important
Come on now.
for us to study and research and understand our history, right? And travel back as far as we can to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Study a lot of our great authors and philosophers and freedom fighters, right? And revolutionaries.
Right.
Because we have so many brothers and sisters who not only put their life on the line, but fought, right? For the liberation of all black people. You look at Shaka Zulu. Right, Shaka Zulu. That's why they so hard on South Africa, because that's the part of the continent that
That
Shaka
fought.
Zulu was from,
Right.
and
Right.
they fought hard.
Yes.
You look at the sanctions, basically that Haiti still
Yes.
has to suffer from. That's because they whooped the French way back in the 1800s.
My
right?
brother Ausar is
so
on fire.
we should understand
He on fire.
as African people, right?
Yes.
That anytime that we win somewhere, they're gonna basically try to oppress and exploit that country, even hundreds of years later, right? That's why it's important for us as Africans to unite globally and support each other globally.
It's true.
Wherever we are, wherever help is needed, we should be able to go and help our brothers and sisters and not see them as separate from ourselves,
It's true.
but be united and have an African united front.
That's because we're actually an extension of the imperialism and the colonialism.
Right.
So we're all connected because wherever they touch, the strategy has been the same. So let me say this. When we talk about the word revolution, we're really talking about revolt,
That's right.
to overthrow.
Right.
Now the question becomes, because remember now, y'all are brothers. So I know that y'all done had y'all squabbles out there on the
Yes,
streets.
indeed.
The question becomes, we fight because it's a revolution. But the question is, what did we settle after the fight? Because the fight, the physical aspect is very short.
Right. That's right.
In context.
That's right, Dr. Kim.
That fight only lasts on the street how many minutes?
Right.
And then we get up and dust off.
Yeah.
The question is, what did we establish after the fight?
Right.
That's good.
The fight is continued, but what kind of grounds did we make?
Right.
The civil rights, we got out there and walked and marched and got beat with dogs, and but what impact did we make, and are we holding on to those victories?
Oh, that's great. That is awesome.
Now,
I mean, really.
And did we change? Is it something that we revolted on the outside, but got no energy to change from the inside? Why? Because 100 years later, we're still fighting what they fought for in the civil rights movement, which means most of our stuff was physical.
Yeah.
And now we're still dealing with the mentality of hate.
Right.
Self-hate.
It was self-hate.
Yeah.
As well.
So that we might have gotten a piece of our own freedom. But it sounds like to me, the inferior people are still mentally trapped, because we still fighting them on the same things that we fought them on 100 years ago. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I got this thesis I wrote a while ago called The Ultimate Sacrifice, where I'm speaking about sacrificing the old to bring out, something else in myself. It's about myself. So in your estimate, what are some key components of assembling a strong and effective revolution?
Well, first, I want to say first, and I said this earlier, identity, understanding, that we're African, organization, like the great Kwame Ture always say, join an organization that's fighting for black people, that's fighting for African people, right? And that's why, also they spoke about a united African front, where all organizations are coming together, working together on the continent and in the diaspora. We have to get serious about those things right there, right? We have to get serious about understanding we're African. We have to get serious about organizing. We have to get serious about building relationships, wherever we are, in the diaspora, with one another in the diaspora, and with our brothers and sisters on the continent. We have to read. We have to study.
Yes.
Right? This is so important. I've been fortunate the last couple of weeks to run across a bunch of books, African books dealing with, African liberation, African history in the diaspora, in Cuba, blacks and Africans in Cuba, wherever, Mexico, you name it. And I think that, to get these books out and let people read and study, because the more information we have and knowledge and understanding, this isn't just happening in the United States, but it happened globally. They didn't just drop us off. They dropped us off all over the world. And as Marcus Garvey said, everywhere he went, black people, African people were in the same conditions.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Right. So it's been not only a global conspiracy, because they put their conspiracy into action. Right. And it took a lot of planning for them to get us to where they got us today and to keep us where they have us. But when we understand the scope of time, we understand that these 500 or so years over here is a short scope of time. It's been painful and hurtful, right? And that's why we have to do everything we can to gain the knowledge, right? Because when we gain the proper knowledge and when we control our thoughts and we understand the aspect of raising our consciousness to a level where we understand the need for unity and the need to love one another, that's when we're going to really stick up for one another and fight for one another. Right. But what the enemy has done, right, has put barriers and obstacles in our lives, in our communities, where, right, we think that we are each other's enemies, right? Because we have fear of the white man, because we think that they can do something that's going to hurt us physically or individually. And that's the fear that we have to overcome. And that's why when we study history, we'll see how they got the power that they have over us. And like Kwame Ture said, power starts at conception. So when we conceive in our mind that we can overthrow a corrupt government and a corrupt global system that has oppressed and exploited people for hundreds and hundreds of years, and then that's when we'll pull together and understand how black unity, African unity, is so important.
And here's, it is, and it's essential for all humanity, because, again, we don't have anything to fear or be superior to. We just are. So when we flourish, the rest of the world flourishes. See, and that's how it was always intended to be.
Yeah.
But now anything that we fought for should have benefited everybody because we need the same things in life: food, nutrition, but the necessities, the basic necessities of life. That's what made our warriors so great. Mansa Musa, who he won't just the richest, but he was also the most philanthropic.
Indeed.
He didn't fear being broke. He didn't fear being, our highest consciousness is the absence of fear. So we have to take on that's knowing who we are.
Yeah.
We should never be subject to any man, nor should any man be subject to us, because everything that we've been given, we didn't obtain on our own. We didn't obtain our melanin or our power or the even geographic location that we were so blessed to be upon. All of that was given to us by divine or divinity. So we start from that place first. Our true identity is spirituality.
That's right.
And then we coexist with each other physically, but spirituality is the foundation of how we interact.
Right.
So no, you shouldn't have to pay for it. They fighting over medical bills and who gonna get meds. Well, the Creator put it in the ground and didn't charge us a thing but to dig it out.
Yeah.
So then how do we tell you in order for you to have the cancer pill, you need to pay $1 million for the treatment? No, you are human. So we think for each other because we are each other. In order for us to rise and do a revolution, it means that something in the genome of life is off key, is off balance. It reminds me of Baba Atmos. I'm getting these names together.
Yeah.
And when he talked about love, the love component, the love don't charge you something that they don't even own.
Right.
And that is the misconception of the fear. Is now to sell you a bill on we own you. We own it. You don't own nothing.
Right.
You came in this world without it, and you gonna leave here without it.
Right.
And as a people, that is why sometimes I really feel like the African human or the melanated human have a difficulty operating in a capitalistic system because it's foreign to us.
Yeah.
And we will always clash because the truth of the matter is the economy is set on a set of beliefs. And our belief systems may be so far-fetched. We are trying to become something and survive in their cosmos that is foreign to our spiritual life.
Yes. Yeah, and you hit it on the head with the capitalism.
Come on.
You know, because in our values and principles of Shetawat Netta,
Come on.
it says Shetawat Netta enjoins the sharing of the resources.
Share.
We believe in sharing with one another.
That's another whole...
Right?
Come on, brother.
Shetawat Netta enjoins the protection of the weak and oppressed, right? That's why we fight for liberation. Because we're a part of that weak and oppressed, right? We're not separate from our brothers and sisters, right? We're here trying to share information, right? So that we can raise the level of consciousness and understand what the fight is real about and what the revolution is about, right? Because the one thing we have to understand is that the enemy wants us to think in a particular manner. The enemy wants us to think that we thugs, gangsters. They want us to think that we are drug dealers because we're playing right into their hands when we put those labels on ourselves. Yeah. That's what the school to prison pipeline is all about. Right. Targeting and trapping as many black people and African people as possible. One of the reasons basically that's been stated for this is and they say because they want to stop the rising of a black messiah, right? Like it's one individual. It's not one individual.
Yeah.
It's a group thing.
Right.
And it's group consciousness. Because we weren't brought over here one by one. We was brought over here as a group, right? And dispensed throughout the world as a group. So to overcome this oppression and exploitation and become liberated and free, it's going to take group consciousness.
It's true.
Right? We're going to have like Kwame Ture said, collective thinking, right? A couple of months ago, we talked about what? collective stupidity.
Oh, right.
When we just following anything that the enemy put out in front of us. But when we can have collective thinking, where we're thinking on the same frequency level, fighting for the liberation of all our brothers and sisters, and more importantly, fighting for the liberation of our future generations, right? That our unborn children, so that they won't have to face what we've had to face, the oppression, exploitation, all the damage that's done to us psychologically.
That's right.
And that's where it all starts in the mind.
Yeah.
That's why the first thing was control your thoughts. Let those thoughts be loving thoughts of your brothers and sisters, right? Because what they teach us, and another good thing, because I really enjoy, studying last night, and because there was so many great points, right? And one of the points was on how they want to keep our youth off balance, because they know that the youth is the future.
Yeah.
So if you can keep the youth the thinking that the only thing they have to do to be successful is be able to rap or play basketball, right? That's self-defeating in itself when we limit ourselves like that.
Yes.
And it's so important for us to put knowledge out there and understand the value of knowledge, right? Because they teach us that, because it's the curriculum that they teach us where we don't want that knowledge. But when you're learning about who you are and who your people are and what we have to do to come together so that we can have liberation, and then that's when we raise our consciousness to the level to become revolutionary warriors.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's something pertinent that y'all spoke on, need to be emphasized. We weren't the only people brung over here, like the blacks of the United States weren't the only ones. I think about 80% of the Africans was 80-something%. My stats could be off, but they was dropped off in the Caribbeans, West Indies, Cuba, Brazil, Venezuela. So the point I'm getting to now is that we can't be making the separation right now.
Right.
It's time to be unified.
Well, we're fighting the same enemy.
Because we're fighting the same enemy, right?
With the same game plan for over, hundreds of years. So why would we separate ourselves? Because this is not just a lot of times, too, when we talk about history, they like to give us our history as if it started here.
Exactly.
And like you said, Brother Escents, we were dropped off in various places across the globe. Right. So then why wouldn't we call for the global contenders to come back to the plate to fight in the same manner? Especially when you understand the mindset of your enemy is not predicated on a specific. He's territorial, and he's about expansion. And I think that's the power of the word imperialism, is because it was never designed for their power and their structure to just be found in one place. They prided themselves off of exploration and domination and taking over the world. So, once they got one place under control, they were already looking to other places to plant their feet. And so, they have us all caught up in nationalism and, we right here in America, versus saying, excuse me, I'm not even from here.
Right.
My body was birthed on this territorial, but I'm actually from another place with another language, with another tongue, and we are forbidden to even embrace or appreciate. And they've marred the image of Africa as being poor and broke and beaten and worthy of enslavement. Because now when you tell me that our people were not intellectual, and I think that everyone has now understood the psychological aspect of what they did to the Egyptians, the statues and the Sphinx with the noses, because they didn't want to identify us as being intelligent.
Yeah.
They wanted us, even our intellect, to be looked at as inferior. Because once you say that a person has the mindset or the capacity to think on his own, you can't own him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that, because, that's the one thing that they try to always instill in our minds, that intellectually we're inferior.
Come on.
Right? And they start with our children. So that's why they love making them bad reports about the literacy rate amongst African Americans. Y'all can't teach them. That's what the problem is, right? Because, I stated before, we partner with Shaw University and the incredible, amazing Dr. Betty Liverman, that's over the literacy program.
Yes.
And when she worked with our students at KCSSU, all of them were able to learn to read and read fluently. Right? It's just the time that you spend with them. But not only that, what are you teaching them to read? You have to teach them to read information that's going to benefit them. Right? Now, as far as the diaspora is concerned, right, which are all Africans outside of Africa, right, we have got to unite with one another as well as unite with our brothers and sisters in Africa, right? And I think that it's important for us to understand because, I had a really good conversation. My best friend had stopped by my house the other day, and he had saw one of the books I had got, how Europe underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney, and he was like, wow, this seemed like a good book.
Right.
And he read the back of it, right? And he made a statement like, Africans, they don't like us. And then I kind of, talked to him and I broke some things down, and he was able to see it, right? And that's important because a lot of times we'll just take things on face value, what we've been told. They don't like us, we don't like them. Brother Escents, I had asked you this morning about, you remember when you read Memorandum 46?
Yes, sir.
If you could pull that up, because I think it's important, if we can see how the United States government intentionally and deliberately, try to keep the Africans, the black people here in the United States from basically joining forces and building relationships with our brothers and sisters on the continent.
Brother Ausar, when you talked about how we are looked upon, or the fact of what are our children being taught, it also says they are forcing the fact that their people are mighty conquerors.
Right.
Now, never mind the rape, the pillaging, the genocide, all of the atrocities that's committed. You're supposed to ignore all of that as a child and take from it that Sir Walter Raleigh was a hero.
Right.
Despite his atrocities to a people, which gives you a form of superiority and immunity. So when our children look upon you, they're supposed to marvel at the fact that you are untouchable. You don't get punished. You can do whatever you want. And if that is not the prerequisite for being an American, look at what we're looking at today. 34 felonies, child pornography, child molestation, human traffic. We back at human trafficking. Why? Because they have basically said we can commit any human atrocities and get away with it, which in itself establishes a mental form of, well, they must be the people who are in control. And so our children are looking at them as heroes because, mind you, when this man said he don't pay taxes while he is ruling a whole nation of people who live off of the tax base,
Right.
then everybody want to be like Mike. Everybody want to be like this person to escape. How did you do it? They ignored when he said he'll grab them by the...
Right.
Help me with the understanding that what is spoken about versus what is practiced is what is marveled.
Right. I think one of the key things is that we allow them to do things, right, that we shouldn't allow them to do.
I agree.
And we allow them to exert power over us that we shouldn't let them exert over us, right? One of the things is through politics, right? We
That's
go
true.
along with whatever they say, you either be a Republican or Democrat. That's not a choice. Two choices ain't no real choice. So we buy into the lie, right? And things have never gotten better throughout any type of election. I've been on this planet 60 years now, and I haven't seen it happen.
Right.
Right. And I think that when we really look at this global system of racism, right? And that the target is African people, we can never think that they are going to change the way they are and look at us in a different type of way. What we have to do is look at ourselves in the proper light of who we are and understand that the intentionality and deliberate acts that they've done against us, right, is to keep their foot on our neck because they never want us to rise. Because once we rise, right, we will truly be a world power because of not only what we possess within the land, the resources and minerals, but also because you made a great point about once we rise up, the love that we'll be able to share with the world. Because we're not trying to dominate and exploit and oppress anyone because we don't have to.
That's right.
We don't have to go anywhere. That's why Africa is so important. And that's why, we try to stress, on this podcast, the importance of understanding that we are Africa, studying Africa, right? And studying the diaspora and understanding, the need for unification, the need for an African-centered consciousness.
That's right.
Right? Because if we're not thinking the way we're supposed to be thinking as Africans, we're thinking improperly.
That's right.
Right? Because if a Chinese person was thinking like a black person, we'll look at that person like they was crazy. Or if a white person was thinking like a Chinese person, we'll look at that person like they was crazy. But we're always trying to adopt other people's philosophies and psychologies.
Yes.
Whether it's in religion, whether it's in what they call themselves, the fraternities and sororities, so-called Divine Nine, right? Who basically, they think that they're Greek. They actually think there's a such thing as a black Greek, right? And we have to be honest, right? That a lot of these brothers and sisters that are part of the fraternities, right, and even part of the church and stuff, they hold positions where the positions that they hold in whether it's local politics, national, whatever, is to help keep the foot on the neck of their brothers and sisters and make their brothers and sisters feel like the reason that you're in the position you're in is because of you, like it's our own fault. And one of the great things I like that was said was when I was studying was that whenever you're making an analysis of an oppressed people, you have to include the oppressor. Because if you don't, you'll never come up with a proper analysis.
Brother,
You think that it's just your people who are lacking in education, lacking in skills, lacking in whatever. But you leave out the key component of how we got to where we are today. How we even got over here in the United States to start with was illegal. Right? They'll call it legal because of the papal bull that Pope Nicholas V put together. But that doesn't give them any right to do anything basically they did when they invaded Africa and they put their hand on the first African.
Come on. Right. And when you said, when you go back to talking about the atrocities that's committed are illegal. There's nothing legal about owning a person.
It can't be.
It can't be.
Not if you're from the Creator.
Not if you exactly. Now you would have to have a very low conscience before you look and say, and that's the sin of legality, because the Father made this continent, this entire globe, without having to write anything down.
That's right.
He don't need you to interpret what he already, and believe it or not, I'm almost for certain that he made the earth first and put mankind on it second. Where would he stand if he was made first? Which means that everything that we needed was already here before we got here. How can you own something you second in the making?
Still here.
It's still, when we leave, it will continue. It don't even need our help to maintain. So you can't own Earth. You cannot own Mars. And see, sometimes their mental capacity don't even let them stop with their cycle,
Well, I think that our ancestors were so on point to your point about nature.
Yes,
right?
yes.
They said, Shetawat Neti enjoys the protection of the nature. Protect the water. Protect the tree.
Come on.
Right? Protect yourself. Right? Protect your loved ones. Protect the environment. I think that's so important that, a lot of times when they try to portray our our African ancestors, they try to make it seem like,
primitive.
we were primitive and backward.
Right.
But we the one who brought philosophy, psychology, all the sciences,
Come on.
all the skills of building,
That's good.
built the pyramids and everything, right?
That's right.
So once we started mathematics, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, once we get the proper information to our brothers and sisters, we're able to dispel ignorance, because knowledge dispels ignorance.
That's right.
They want to keep us in an ignorant state, and I'm not talking bad about our people when I say keep us
No.
in an ignorant state.
Absolutely.
Because we was put in this state to ignore the facts. One of the big things, basically, that plays a major role is the church. Right? Well, religion, period. Whether it's the church or the mosque or whatever, right?
Right, because it's true.
When you're dealing with indoctrination, right? When you're dealing with putting a religion before you put your people, right? Religion is a choice.
Right.
But being who you are is a gift from the Creator.
Absolutely.
Right? And we are the original people on this planet. Right? And religion was the first thing that was used to do what? Enslave our ancestors.
It's true.
So we have to really pay attention to it. That's why spirituality, right? And the way we teach from an African perspective is that, from an African centered orientation, is that we are spirit, right? And that the spirit is perfect, right? And that's why Baba Atmo shared with us about what? Perfect love.
That's right.
Right? And that perfect love comes when we raise our consciousness to the point where we understand when we love each other, we're not going to be bickering and fighting with each other and thinking we're the enemy, because that's what the enemy wants us to do. Because if we're fighting each other, we can't focus on the true culprit, right? That has created all of this chaos throughout the planet, right? And that's why, I'm going to say it again. I encourage the listeners. I encourage everyone. Study, research, expand your consciousness.
That's right.
Expand your knowledge,
Yes.
right? Because there's knowledge out there that's so good, it'll transform and change your whole life, right? And that's where the revolution starts, in the mind.
Yeah.
Let me say this, Brother Ausar. When you talk about the word ignorance, and you said to ignore the facts, well, anybody who wants you to ignore fact is certainly a person who would want to control you with the lie. And then and once they craft the lie and hold you at gunpoint that says, if you don't comply, then you die. And die is not just a gun. Die means I steal your resources,
Right.
or your ability to live. And then what tends to happen is that we start complying with the lie in so much that we don't even know the truth anymore.
That's right.
And we start upholding the lie with you and telling you that if you don't or comply with the lie, then you're not gonna live either. And then they market or socialize what they're doing. So now the lie looks more suitable than the truth. I remember Malcolm X said, after a while, we'll be looking and we won't even know what is truth or what is the lie. Because they spend millions of dollars in marketing.
Yes.
They spend millions of dollars to change the perception.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. Yes.
And so now the ones who are revolutionary look like they are savages and out of control and trying to raise up. I will never forget. And that's how they do. They keep you discombobulated with calling or making you look like you're the one who is out of control, because you don't go along with and this is the path to success. No, devouring others should not be the path to success. We should be able to coexist without me dominating.
I think that, The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson is such a very important book, right? Because now when we're talking about, knowledge dispelling ignorance, right? When he was talking about the miseducated, he was talking about those who had went to college and had been educated, right? So now you're really talking about ignorance, because you're talking about people who had the ability to learn, but they choose to learn what they want to learn, right? But they don't want to choose to learn their true African history,
Right.
their true African culture, right? And I'm talking about the fraternities and them again, the Divine Nine, right? Because they choose to take the side of the enemy and work with them, right, and look down on their people by thinking that they're the talented 10th. If you're the talented 10th, what type of talent do you possess that has liberated African people? See, they can't answer that question because they've done nothing, right? So they are a major stumbling block for the advancement of black people. Not only them, also religion. These are major stumbling blocks because these are people who had the ability to think, right? And had the ability to control their thoughts. But they have chosen to take the side of the enemy against their people because they benefit off of that. Right? As a lot of people call what? They call them sellouts, they call them coons, they call them Tom. I don't like to be derogatory towards our brothers and sisters because they had the ability to come into the right type of consciousness, right? Because they've been miseducated, and that's why it's the miseducation of the Negro. So they think that they're escaping a lot of times from, the oppression of black people when they join a Greek organization. They feel like it's a step up, right? That's because we've been hit in the head to think negatively about ourselves, right? That's why it's going to take a mass consciousness movement of the masses of the people, as opposed to just a few people who feel like they've made it and they feel like when they go back to the community that they're giving back. They don't see themselves as part of the community. But we are part of our community. We all have got to be basically united and connected mentally, spiritually, physically, and psychologically. That's group consciousness. But when you have some of us who the only group they want to be about is certain groups basically that take on philosophies that are anti-black and anti-African, right? Because the Greek philosophy is anti-black and anti-African because those are some of the invaders. So we have to take these things seriously. We try to sweep them up under the rug and just try to go along and get along with our brothers and sisters. But if our brothers and sisters are stopping progress for millions and millions and even billions of black people, African people on this continent, we have to address them just like we have to address the real enemy who they're working for because they're part of a system that oppresses and exploits black people.
Right. And that's exactly what I was alluding to when I was asking about, the prominent ones, the prominent people, the ones that grew up and they don't see, the problem or, choose to ignore the problem.
I remember, yes.
Yeah.
Well, they part of the problem. It ain't so much that they're ignoring them. Because, see, I've dealt with these people, right? So I ain't just talking just to be talking.
Yeah.
Right? I've sat down with them, over the last, going on 13 years since I've been home. And I remember all the meetings. I remember the things that they say, how they ignore what's going on. They don't care nothing about the black community. Right? They don't care nothing about black children. You talk about we've just been fortunate as an organization, to partner with people like Dr. Liverman and Shaw University, and also to build great relationships throughout the community with the people, with the children, with the families. But as far as, these African-American politicians and things of that trying to help the black community, that's the last thing they want to do. They want to give you an excuse of why they can't help. And not only do they want to give you an excuse, they want you to keep chasing them, thinking that you need something from them, like funding or whatever. No, we don't need no funding from y'all. We have something that's stronger than funding. And that's knowledge, right? We impart knowledge. Brother Escents, you've been working with us since way back in 2014. Like, you teach the children. That's the greatest gift that we can give to our babies is knowledge, right? The knowledge of self, with a foundation of Maya, truth, justice, and righteousness.
Now this is right. Now, what about the conscious? I'm gonna do the what do you call them? The air quotes. What about the conscious communities? Now they're separating from each other, or even just from the continent itself. Let me see if I can clean up where I'm trying to get to.
We listening, brother.
Yeah.
We listening.
You got Black Americans saying that they're we're separated from Africans, Jamaicans, all the diasporas, we just focused on self. We're going to do away with the hundreds of thousands of years of civilization that's been built over in Africa. And we're going to just deal with the 300-400 years that we've been over here. And
well, I hate to say it, but that's a form of ignoring the facts. That's ignorance.
That's true.
Right? You want to ignore the history that goes back. You want to identify what's so American about a black person. I mean, what is an American? What is a citizen? When have we ever been treated as a citizen and treated with respect? So that's a form of self-hatred when you're willing to deal and you rather be an American than be an African and you're a black person, right? And they make all kinds of excuses, and some people feel like they're being paid off by the government, and we know that the government will pay people to basically disrupt any type of camaraderie amongst us as black people, as African people. Like I had spoke earlier about the Memorandum 46, how they definitely don't want us, basically joining forces with our brothers and sisters on the continent. They want to keep us separated. Because when we come together, that's when we'll be able to exert power. So when we have our brothers and sisters, and it's going to be brothers and sisters that's going to be against, any type of conscious movement that's pushing towards liberation. Right now, as far as the conscious organizations that you're talking about, if we're being divisive in any form or manner, we're not that conscious, right? Because we're going to respect one another, and if long as somebody ain't doing nothing to hurt, our brothers and sisters, you let them be. But if any type of movement is doing something to hurt our community, we have to address that too, because we understand a lot of times these organizations are put together by the enemy to disrupt or thwart a movement that's going liberate black people.
right.
And let me say this. It goes back to what we talk about when we talk about strategies or the art of war. The art of war also cuts off communication.
Right.
So when you are telling people that in order for you to survive, you can't think about your other brothers and sisters. You have to think just for yourself. You have to think in your small box, because this is, they don't matter. And so that has been a playbook tactic for thousands of years, divide and conquer.
Yeah.
And then you start telling yourself you're different from the average.
Right.
You're different. You're not them, and they're not you. And we all came and were dropped off under the same premises.
Right.
So again, ignorance is bliss, because it's a fear tactic. So the only thing that you're going to get out of it is a very isolated, enslaved person, because you can't beat them by yourself. So there is power in number.
Yes, indeed.
They know that. So if I divide and if I pay you to stay away.
Right.
See, you got to remember today's folks, then they sell you. This is the marketing strategy that we definitely have to address. And it is called I pay for you to play. So now I'm paying you to basically become an enslaved Negro all over again. The first slaves won't pay. The second slaves is paid. And they are paid to keep the disruption going, to maintain white quote-unquote supremacy. So now they pay you to keep the other ones managed.
Right.
County manager, city manager. We still have black. Police chief, the sheriff. You have some of the highest black people in the highest paid positions.
School
superintendent. And guess what? You still are paid slaves maintaining the plantation, and you're not gonna get anything different, because they are to be beholding to.
That's right. That's right.
The agenda. They can talk about statistics. They can talk about, but you better not change the dynamics of white supremacy.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's good, Dr. Kim, and that's right on point, because they always use us against us. Like, but this is the most important thing. They want to, even our African American politicians, whatever. They don't mind our community staying in not knowing, right? Or staying ignorant. Right. Not so much, ignoring the facts, but not even really having the facts presented to them.
That's good.
Right? They really don't even want certain information to enter into our communities because they don't care about the few who make it out and move into their neighborhoods and things of that
That's
nature.
right.
They're worried about the masses of us rising up in our consciousness.
That's correct.
And that's why it's so important for us to reach out to our, and that goes to our foundational pillars Mayat, the fifth one, essentiality of moral social practice, which says that the only good that is done is the good that is done for those who need it the most, which
Right.
are our brothers and sisters.
That's right.
Right. And that's why I really like the quote about when you're doing an analysis of the oppressed, you also have to bring in the oppressor. Because they'll talk about our single mothers and how
Right.
ghetto they are, this, that, and try to dog our queens out, our sisters. And then try to dog out the children's fathers, by incarcerating them or labeling them. And we got to reach out to our people and help them out. It's just like when Dr. Kim, you remember the letter I had wrote to the police chief?
Yes.
When the captain had said he had made a statement at a meeting about African-American children downtown who didn't know who their fathers were.
Right.
How you going to make a statement like that? You don't know who know what. Right, but that's just the way that they perceive us,
That's right.
in a negative way. So they looking at these young brothers and sisters without a father, so they look at them as what? An easy target.
That's right.
Right. So we're not finished with that because we're definitely going to have to address that with the Raleigh Police Department.
Yeah.
And
Right.
we have to address it with the city and the state as a whole,
Right.
because it is in the foundation of how they operate, is how they even target us. Those are easy targets, but those were conditions that were created
Right.
in war.
Right.
In war, when you start dismantling the house first of all, you dismantled the house because you cut off the resources.
Right.
You came out and you turned off the water because now you have a black man who you didn't want to give a position to because you won't promote him.
Right.
And so now you push this black woman to have to need resources for survival from your other pool of resources. But in order to do that, that means I have to dismiss the man.
Right. That's right. Oh yeah. Yes. And that's why, as black men and as Africans, right, we have to have a revolutionary spirit.
That's right.
Right. We have to have a warrior spirit. Right. And when you're a warrior, you don't fear anything.
That's right.
Right. Because you know that you have to do everything in your power to stand up for, and I ain't just talking about the brothers, I'm talking about the sisters.
Absolutely.
The queen here, she's a warrior. Right. Willing to fight and challenge the enemy. Right. Head on. Not side with the enemy. See, the assimilation, right, is when you give in.
That's right.
And we can't give in because, through the civil rights movement and everything, right, we thought things would get better. Things have not gotten better.
No.
They may have gotten, it might have been a little better here and there, but they always think of ways to push us back.
Right.
Right? They came with the crack epidemic. That was over 40 years ago.
And we're still paying for
Right,
it.
and still paying for it.
Right,
Then
absolutely.
they came with the gang culture, with that movie Colors, right? All of these things would kill what? Kill the revolutionary spirit.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
Kill the revolutionary thought. Kill the revolutionary warrior.
That's right.
Make the black man think that the black man is his enemy.
That's right.
Make the black woman think that the black woman and the black man is her enemy.
That's
right.
right.
We're not each other enemies. A lot of things that have happened to us have been designed and constructed by a wicked, vicious enemy.
That's right.
That has impacted us in such a negative way. Yeah. So when we're talking about the revolutionary spirit, the revolutionary warrior, right, we can't back down whatsoever. We have to stand on our values, stand on our principles, stand on what we know. Right?
right.
Speak the foremost knowledge, which is the knowledge of self.
That's right.
Understanding who we are as a people and what we must do. These are revolutionary thoughts that have to penetrate the mind of all black people and African people. Because who don't want to know who they are?
That's right.
When you have the knowledge of who you are, that gives you a certain power where you can defend yourself and defend your people.
And it gives you probable cause and premise to call out what is not true.
Right.
See, once you
Right.
know who you are,
Right.
you have no problem calling out what is not. And so that's the biggest fear, is them being uncovered. for years they hid under a sheet.
Right.
They hid they're always hiding their evil under something, a rock, a sheet, a judgeship.
Yeah.
They always have to hide. But us, the truest nature, should never have to hide or be ashamed or even be afraid to be in this skin.
Yeah.
We should not be riding around scared to be in our skin.
Right.
And teaching our children, have you had to talk with your children? No, I'm not having to talk with my children.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell them if he start acting like a Klansman, now you respect him as a human. As soon as he start acting like a white covered chocolate something, you better treat him accordingly. Yeah. And like they said, well, we trying to get home. Our police are, and we trying to get home too. Right. And guess what? I'm not sparing his life if he ain't trying to spare my life.
Okay.
So somebody better make a good decision.
Yeah.
We better find out how to be human to one another, because I am not called to tell my children to take down. Yeah. That's an issue in our community. Right. They've taught us how to succumb and not be the revolutionaries. Well, you can't tell me that I deserve a dog bite.
Right, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And some water and pay the bill.
Yeah. That's a great segue, because across the black world there's been revolutions and uprisings. Some great, some not so great. But the Haitian Revolution, with what's his name, Toussaint Louverture. Right. Yeah. At the St. John's Revolution, the St. John's Revolt over in St. John's Island, which is now the U.S. Virgin Island, part of U.S. Virgin Island. But why is the Haitian Revolution important to African history?
Well, it's a couple of reasons.
Oh,
For one, they show that the French and the Europeans are not invincible. They kick their butt, first and foremost. That's right. That's why. And it showed the revolutionary spirit, right? And it showed how we are a spiritual people, because it was a lot of spiritual practices that was used, right? That not only gave us the confidence, but gave us the strength to be able to defeat the French, right?
Yes.
And not only is it important for that, it's important for us to understand how the world is still punishing Haiti for defeating the French.
Brother, say it again. Can you say that again?
They're still punishing Haiti. Right, and with the sanctions and things of that nature. That's why I had stated earlier, as Africans, we got to all pull together. We shouldn't allow things like that to happen to Haiti. We should be not only protesting, but doing everything in our power to support Haiti, as well as support the countries in Africa, right? And we have to do this, in a conscious manner, where we're sharing information with one another and truly building. First thing we have to build, and we've been talking about this all day, is the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why are we fighting? Right? Why do we allow all these foreigners to come in Africa, and we want to be such good hosts and let them take what they want and say that not only can we benefit from Africa, but we can share with the world, but the world ain't trying to share with us.
That's good.
Right. That's when we have to be revolutionary warriors.
Right.
Right. And stop feeling like just because they're going to slip us $2 million, we're going to sell our people out.
No,
right. We have to be incorruptible.
That's right.
Right. And that's why the teachings of our ancestors are so important, because when we understand the mummification process, right, they put protection on the body to protect them from the rodents and things of that nature when they was buried.
Come on and
but
teach.
It's also symbolic, right, when you protect yourself with knowledge. Right? And the first thing that they uncovered when they took the bandages off the mummy was the mouth, because he was makaru, true of speech, speaking truth. Right? And once they unbandage it, that's when you're able to go back in the world, because you have gained the knowledge necessary, right, to deal with all of the atrocities of the world without being swayed one way or another way, but standing on Maya. And that's the most important thing. That's why we say makaru, true of speech.
That's right. That's good talk. That's good. Listen, that's enough for us to soak in. Because really what laws are is a reaffirming of protections. See, either you got it or you have to get it. And laws basically are for those who, now if I see you, I automatically know that you are me and I am you. So I I genuinely protect you in the way that I would hope that you would protect me.
That's right.
Now, once I start having to write it down, somebody need to be reminded. That's what the law is.
Right.
The law says somebody don't think the way we all thinking. So let me write it down for you. Or let me make sure that the law excludes you from protection.
Right. That's it right there.
Come on. That law is either for you or against you. But technically, we should be able to look at each other and go, when I see you, I protect you, I feed you. I shouldn't have to need a law to make sure that you eat. I know that you need to eat. So these trickery, well, the reason why we stopping the food stamps is because we're trying to find out about the Medicare, Obamacare. How did you get food stamps confused with medical coverage from Obamacare? What you hate is the law of Obamacare that protects the people that you want to unprotect. And so revolutionary, we should be standing up as humans saying, not only do we want Obamacare, but everybody should be protected.
Right.
Everybody should have we shouldn't be arguing about how much the premium is. Pay it and give an incentive for living longer. Give an incentive for preservation. The longer you live, the more you work out.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Come on.
Do you all think that this system would be successful without black people participating in it?
Of course
not. Not at all.
Right.
Yeah,
But
not
believe
at
it
all.
or not, Brother Kevin, to your question, I believe if we stood up and be who we were called to be from the beginning,
Right.
we would overthrow capitalism.
Indeed.
We wouldn't even need it
Right.
because it's a legal way of thievery.
Right. Indeed.
Capitalism is the legal way to exploit.
Yeah.
And we are not exploiters by nature.
No.
So in order for us, and I believe we're coming up upon that time where we are going to say, at the very nature of who we are is expanding. It has to outdo wickedness. It has to do. And if you're looking for the people who will challenge it, remember, we were civil rights.
Right.
We didn't ask you for human rights.
Yeah.
We knew you was human. We were asking you to be civil, which is now another consciousness of how to behave yourself.
Right. Indeed.
We were asking you, could you control your thoughts and your actions? And don't put these things in your laws that make you unruly.
Well, their thoughts and actions are geared against, humanity. And I think that, with us recognizing that, we should never depend on them to come into their senses. It's all about us and our consciousness.
We got to stop
because
asking.
our consciousness is power. And that's why, we're not talking because one person or two person can't liberate us. It's going to take us as a group.
Right.
That's why it's going to take group consciousness and really just, understanding not only the knowledge of self, but your enemy.
Yeah.
Right, and the lengths that your enemy will go through to keep you oppressed and exploited, and also the technology that they're going to use to always make it seem like something better is coming. Just like the civil rights movement, right? We thought that was a big leg up, right? But here it is 60-something years later, and me personally, I think we're in a worse condition, right? Because of what's going on in society, not only with our young people, with our old people as well, with the elderly, brothers and sisters my age, because it's just so much oppression that it can, sometimes be overwhelming. And you know how they use the media and they use the press against us. Now with social media, the internet, the information age, is so much misinformation that we're ingesting, right? That's basically throwing us off. That's why I like this program that we got here, this podcast, because we're able to share with our brothers and sisters things that are important, right? And I think that if we can, start, sharing with our brothers and sisters that, learning is important because, they like the fact that we don't like learning in their school system, in their curriculum, that we fail in their curriculum. Right? They know why we fail in their curriculum.
Right.
Because it's not built for us and it don't benefit us. And we feel that when we're young. But once we start studying the right information and reading the right books, it strengthens our mind and our consciousness. It empowers us. It gives us confidence, right? And when you have that confidence, you know you're second to none, intellectual or any other way. And right, and what that does is it gives you a blueprint, right, on how to conduct yourself, right, so that it will not only benefit you, but benefit the others and be an example to others of how we have to work together as a unit.
Let me say this, when we talk about civil rights, the reason why it can only be so effective or the lack thereof is because at the end of the movement, it ended up in a law. Wait a minute.
Right. And
You're asking these brute behaviors to be tamed and contained in the packaging of law. Well, they live 24 hours a day to change laws.
Right.
So if that's what you thought was going to keep a brute mentality or maintain or contain or tame wickedness, then we were already defeated. Because you can't make humanity behave based off of a law. As a matter of fact, the more laws you got, it tells you how lawless you are.
Exactly.
So then when you send them to prison, people to prison, and you hoping that the prison atmosphere is supposed to correct, to be correct. Actually, sometimes people learn how to become more brute and more animalistic. Behind it don't correct the issue. So then, if that's our formula for civility, we already flunked, and that's why we're back. Because you cannot legislate love.
Right.
And you can't legislate hate. Right. We have to go beyond, and that is our job as spiritual beings, to help people understand spiritually who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
And that starts, like you said, in the mind. It don't start with my skin. It starts in my mind, because I could be blind, or I could be a person who have the color where I can't see colors. Then what color am I then?
Right.
Come on, we got to get past it.
Right.
We are beings first. And once we learn that, Africa really wasn't just one continent, it was all.
Right.
You can find us everywhere throughout the world.
That's exactly right.
Before we were enslaved, we ventured the world. We didn't try to conquer anybody. We weren't conquistadors. But we were people who like to navigate this great, piece of what they call earth.
Right.
And that is the human spirit, is to seek out and search out.
Yeah. Africa should be a mind state. We should think of it as a mind state, not just
Come on.
not just a landmass.
Come on, Brother Escents.
Another one of our great scholars, Edward Scobie, he was talking on the Haitian Revolution. He was saying our people were so spiritually in tune at that time during that revolution that they could hide in the swamps with the gators or any other reptiles or whatever, and the animals and creatures just wouldn't even bother, wouldn't move towards them when, you understand already. You know what happened. Yeah. So
And that's the power of being spiritually connected.
Right.
I really believe that when we get it together, the rest of creation gets it together. But as soon as we assimilate, as soon as we start trying to be in survival mode, trying to get the new gators, trying to try to have the status, we lose, and we have never. Well, like you said, brother, they're always trying to sell us something as if we don't have nothing.
Right.
So I'm always trying to obtain. Well, you can't always. You can't get to a place of freedom and liberation if you always trying to obtain something that you already have.
Right.
He paid. It bothers me that they said, and he paid for his freedom.
Right.
Slaves paid for their freedom. I don't know if somebody heard that. Who got their freedom? Who do I need to purchase my? Who I got to pay? Our people need to be reimbursed for that alone.
And then how are you gonna give it to me in a plastic bag or a paper bag?
Brother Escents?
You know what I mean?
Is that a Walmart
Like,
bag, a
I don't know.
brown bag?
Like, you
You
gotta
know?
give me my freedom. Like, yeah, I don't get it. So,
Like these are psychological tropes that keep us from the revolution, because they always are teaching us that we should be obtaining something
Right.
that we already have. And I think that's what America means is, we over here, you can have. No, I already have. I am already a being. I don't need to be a citizen of America. I'm a citizen of the globe.
right.
Right. So what we're trying to protect is a illusion of inclusion,
Right.
equity. Equal to who?
So, yeah, y'all been speaking on it all day, but I'm going to still ask the question. I know it get redundant sometimes because I do this quite a bit, because it's a quote that's often said: a revolution would not be televised. That means that it's going to start within self, within the mind. You know, what is central for Africans to develop that revolutionary consciousness? Brother Ausar?
Yeah, well, the first thing is the understanding that we African in the knowledge of self, right? That's essential, because then once we start gaining, that knowledge, not only do we have the confidence, but we understand the greatness, of our royalty, our ancestors that came before us thousands and thousands of years ago, and even the royalty of our ancestors that were enslaved. They were just as royal as the ones in the ancient days.
Oh, yeah.
We were just put in a position, and we're still a royal people, right? But they don't want us to understand who we are, and that's why all of the obstacles or barriers are put in place, right? That's why the tools of self-hate are intentionally put in place. That's why the distractions are put in place. A lot of the sports world, it's football and basketball season right now, so people really are distracted, right? The holidays, which is another distraction, right? But one of the key components is knowing who we are, understanding our history, understanding what we have to do, knowing that we have to be united, and understanding that knowledge dispels ignorance. We cannot be afraid to know that we've been miseducated. When I read the book, The Miseducation of the Negro, I was 42 years old.
Right.
And I was like, wow. I said, well, the next part of my life won't be like the first 42 years, right? Because I'm going to properly educate myself with the knowledge of self so that I can be a benefit to black people, to African people.
And see, Brother Ausar says something profound that says, and not only do we have a duty to know knowledge, but it is our duty to apply it. Because a lot of times people say knowledge is power, but people go to the grave with a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
Is knowledge applied?
Nah, that's real. I like that.
Knowledge applied is power.
Because the second is to control your actions also, but after the thoughts, after the knowledge, you got to put it in action.
You got to put it in action.
I'm sorry, Dr. Kim.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when you know what's true and you don't act upon it, you're actually making your enemy bigger than what he really is. Because as a matter of fact, the knowledge and the truth that you actually have is powerful enough to not only free you, but free the other.
Right.
Free the oppressor. And that's the other issue, is that if they could keep you not knowing who you are, then they get to continue to operate in their own ignorance.
Right.
And that's what one of the battles that I see even today, where they'll go, we didn't know. When George Floyd died, everybody wanted, Dr. Kim, could you come and talk to us? Because we just didn't know. No, you did not want us to apply or uncover you. And now that you are, instead of saying we're sorry, you just pretend like, well, we didn't even know what was going on. Well, where you been? How did you think we got here?
Right.
And so until we address those issues, then guess what? We cannot, until we say, yes, you did know. And guess what? We're going to hold you accountable for what you knew. Because you deliberately did not undo the damages that you know that you were supposed to once you were in consciousness.
And Dr. Kim, you said something interesting just a few seconds ago. You said the civil rights insurgents, you said that kind of set us back a few.
Well, what I said is that the civil rights movement ended it up with a law.
Right.
And anytime if that's your end goal, then it's not going to be held very long because people change laws every day.
That's right. That's
And
exactly right.
and that's why I talk about the revolution, because that was a form of revolution.
Right.
However, what is it that we gained? If all we got was a law, then that could have been changed the very next day. And so that's why we're here today still fighting the same things that we fought, is because you can't legislate hate. You can only educate and then demand that they become human and come to their senses, or come after their institutions that uphold inhumanity.
Yeah.
If I may, because I really like the fact that we spoke on control your thoughts, number one, and number two is control your actions.
Yes.
How it has to be action at the thought. Number three is important. All of them important, all 10. But number three is steadfastness in purpose.
Yes.
Right. That means we can't give up. We can't get discouraged, because the enemy wants us to get discouraged. With major blocks, we take 2 steps forward, they knock us back 5 steps. Right. We have to be steadfast in our purpose, and also, we've spoken on this time and time again that number 10, have the ability to distinguish the real from the unreal. That's one of our biggest challenges, right? Because we'll accept the lie before we accept the truth. And I saw one thing where it say that we'll accept the lie without proof, but we want the
Proof for the truth.
We want proof for the truth. We've been conditioned to be like that, right? So we have to be understanding. And I have to admit, moving forward, I'm really excited because with all the books that we have at KCSSU, we definitely want to get them on the college campuses to our youth.
That's right.
Develop freedom fighters, revolutionary warriors. We want to get it out in our community.
Right.
And we want to build and learn as much as we can learn about who we are, where we come from, and also the revolutions that's happened throughout the diaspora, right? The one thing that the enemy don't want us doing is what? To think. Right? That's what we have to do. But we have to think the right thoughts and the correct thoughts, right? And we have to have the correct actions that go behind that thought. And we have to be steadfast in purpose. And we have to have ability. We have to have the ability, have faith in your teacher's ability to lead you on the path of truth. So we have to have faith in all of our master teachers, right? All of our scholars. And number 5, have faith in your ability to accept the truth.
Right.
We have to be willing to accept the truth.
Right.
And number 6, have the ability to act with wisdom. 7, freedom from resentment under the act of persecution. Right? And that's not so much to you have freedom from resentment, but at the same time, you understand that resentment is going to eat you up. So you let it pass through, and you deal with whatever the situation is. Number 8, have the freedom from resentment under the experience of being wrong. We've all been done wrong, right? And number 9, have the ability to know right from wrong. All of these are very important.
Right.
These are ancient values and principles. Number 10, I already said it, but I'm going to say it again. Have the ability to distinguish the real from the unreal. Because a lot of times they put falsehood in our face, and we accept the falsehood, but we reject the truth.
Yeah.
Let me say this, Brother Kevin, because you came back and you gave the steps. Which one is the one that talks about wisdom and action?
The first 2, control your thoughts, control your actions.
But I think around the 5th and the 6th, you said...
number 6.
6.
Have the ability to act with wisdom.
Act.
Yeah.
With wisdom.
Act with wisdom.
Yes.
Now, that's the part that I think I am, focused on, because once we have knowledge, once we've controlled our thoughts, once we have gained that proper thinking, we go back to the civil rights movement, we only maintain them from being physically abusive. But we never change the thought with wisdom.
Right.
And so the action now says, now that I have you under law or under arrest, perhaps now I can start training the mind on how to because first of all, the mindsets should be looked upon as illegal. You can't change a law that should have been illegal from the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It should never have been legal for you.
Legalized, right.
It shouldn't have never been legal. We never go back and address that. Instead, we make laws that go, and they've taught us, don't go back and deal with this. Moving forward, have you not heard that term used in America? But moving forward, we are going to so and so and so and so. When the truth of the matter is, they never go forward. They just may hold you still with the illusion. That is why the Black Lives Matters movement could only produce something for the first 2 years, the movement. And then as you saw, people start regurgitating back to what they were doing from the beginning.
Yeah.
We promise we're going to do this. We promise we're going to have a quota. We promise we're going to add more black folks to our staff. And before you know it, they were back to what they because they don't know no better. And this even talks about what Byron Laws and I talked about with the African American Affairs Board. It was birthed out of desperation for protection. But they can't. They always are going to find a way to go back to not protecting us. And that is why we cannot depend on their laws to protect us. We have to be a sovereign people. We have to be a people that says, even if you don't pass a law to protect us, you will have to protect us. And here's our consequences, not your consequences, our consequences. And we have to get to that point where we're not dependent on them to give. How do you give yourself punishment for something you did? There is no child of mine can be like, well, your mom, you do know I skipped class today, and so I gave myself my own punishment.
Yeah, that don't.
America is good for committing atrocities, and then say, well, this is the punishment I'm going to give myself. And we so happy that they finally came to some kind of mental utopia, what is that? Utopia or some kind of, that's psychological. Yes, sir.
I'm glad that you had made the statement about number 6 had the ability to act with wisdom, right? That's so important.
Yes.
Right, because because everything basically you're saying is we know that they're not going to really ever do anything that's going to benefit black people, Africans or African Americans. Just like how at first they approved the African American Affairs Board, right? Mm-hmm. And then how they went against it, right? So that meant that they did what? They told a what? They told a lie.
They told a lie.
They didn't tell the truth. Wisdom is based off of truth.
Right.
Right. And our ancestors in the oldest book in the world, the Book of Ptahhotep, it says you can tell a wise person by their good actions. A wise person's heart matches his or her tongue. When a wise person speaks, his or her lips are straight.
Right.
The wise have eyes to see and ears to hear that which will profit offspring. Right. So when we're talking about being wise, we're trying to set ourselves up in a position, right, to look out for who? Our future generations.
That's right.
So anytime that we thinking by holding hands with the enemy in any type of political movement is going to get us in a type of justice, that's not being wise.
Just maintaining.
Right. That's basically, in a sense, being gullible.
It's
because
true.
We're holding on to a false hope that they're going to change the way they feel about us. They're not going to change.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? They haven't changed yet, and we shouldn't want them to change. What we should do is change the way we see ourselves and understand them for who they are so that we can deal with them accordingly. Right? That's the only way we're going to get our liberation and independence. Right? Dr. Kim, she mentioned the civil rights movement. Right? To me, it seems like we've gone back, with everything that's going on in society. And that's not to be negative, but that's just basically dealing with the truth, right? And that's why it takes a conscious effort of our brothers and sisters, globally, right? To raise our consciousness and basically, be a positive example and influence to our brothers and sisters of why knowledge is so important, right? Because knowledge is what's going to change our condition, the application of knowledge, the application of wisdom, right? Understanding that one person ain't got all the knowledge, one person ain't got all the wisdom. We all got knowledge and wisdom. That's why in our foundational pillars, we got perfectibility, teachability. Everyone can be taught something, and everyone can teach something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We down to the final 25 seconds here now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's like 2-3 more questions I did want to ask, but don't worry, I'm gonna ask these same questions next week, regardless of the topic, because it all coincide with each other. Because these was some very important questions I did want to ask that we had there. So I guess I'm gonna close the way we open. I'm gonna leave y'all with the second part of my birth of a nation.
Come on.
To revolt or rebel is nailed to our kind. So we're castrated at birth or we're lynched by 9. Time would tell when hell freezes over. With global warming approaching, let's gather these soldiers. Boast heroic for the stoic or fragile. Through the power of shed blood that flow with the Nile. Styles combine and great minds collaborate. It's more than nuclear war when its souls they annihilate. No pearly gates, my brethren. Heaven's a mind state. We're kings and queens of the present and gods of our past days. Awake and realize we're civilized beings. They exploit our negative actions. Now ask yourself what's the reason. It's treason to conquer, then they'll sponsor our youth. They had our glory in books, so we won't find out the truth. Souped up cars, rap or movie stars won't help. Let's dig up them tunes and find knowledge of self. The dwelling suspenseful, it's in the temples of Christ. Now that's only a title given of what a wise man like. Despite the attempts to exempt our creation, we'll take back what's rightfully ours through birth of a nation. Proper education always corrects error.
Right.
Peace.
Revolution.
Revolution, evolution.
Yes, indeed.
Community Radio, WRLYLP, Raleigh.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Direction. My name's Jay Izzo, and oh, man, do we have a great show for you today. We had him